All right, let's talk about an engineering path that is literally building the future of India. But you know what? It's a path that so many new graduates just completely ignore. So let's dive in.
So, let me ask you something straight up. As an engineer, when you picture your dream career, what do you see? What's that first image that pops into your head?
Chances are, if you're like most engineering students in India, you're probably thinking about a great IT job, right? Or maybe a secure government gig, or a cool corporate office. And hey, that totally makes sense. That's what we hear about all the time.
But what if there's this huge, super important part of the engineering world that's kind of flying under the radar? I'm talking about a field where you're not just writing code, you're actually physically making things.
And that's where we get to what you might call India's forgotten engineering dream, manufacturing. I mean, this is the absolute backbone of our economy, but for some reason, it's just so misunderstood. So let's really get into what this is all about. Yeah, and this pretty much sums up the whole problem, doesn't it? The perception versus the reality. When people hear factory, they still think of, I don't know, dirty, loud, old school machines. But the reality today? It's all about complex, clean, and super automated engineering systems. Okay, so what does a job in this world actually feel like, day to day? Let's step away from the office desk for a minute and see what it's really like on a modern factory floor.
First off, forget that image of one lonely engineer working on a machine. It's not like that at all. A modern plant is this buzzing, dynamic place run by a whole team of different experts. You've got your production engineers hitting targets, you've got maintenance engineers making sure nothing breaks down, quality engineers are there to ensure everything's perfect, and of course, automation engineers bringing in all the cool robotics and smart tech. And all of this has to work seamlessly with the planning and supply chain folks. It is a massive team effort.
Let's take a real-world example, okay? Picture a plant that makes cables. It all starts with something as simple as a copper rod. From there, that rod gets drawn out, it gets insulated, armored, it's tested like crazy, and then finally, it's ready to be shipped out as a finished product. Think about that. Every single one of those steps, that's engineering. That's an engineer making a critical decision.
Now, a really big part of this career, especially when you're starting out, is something called shop floor work. And no, this is not a desk job where you're glued to a laptop. It's about being right there, on the floor, getting your hands dirty, you know? You're understanding the machines up close, solving problems the second they pop up, and talking directly with the operators running the equipment. It's all about practical, on-your-feet thinking.
All right, let's get to the question I know is on your mind, the big one. Let's talk money. How does a career in manufacturing actually pay? And look, I'm going to be totally honest with you. The starting salary, yeah, it's often lower than what you might get in IT right out of college. We're talking somewhere in the 3 to 5 lakh per year range. But, and this is a huge but, that is not where the story ends. Not even close. And this is the key thing to understand. That starting salary, that's just the first rung on a very tall ladder. The long-term potential, well, it can blow other fields away. Why? Because in manufacturing, you're building real-world expertise, tangible skills that companies will always pay top dollar for. So you're probably asking, how do I get that growth? Well, you focus on the high-value stuff. You become an expert in production systems. You dive deep into automation and robotics. You master things like lean manufacturing to make everything more efficient. You learn how to improve processes. Those are the skills that make you indispensable. And what does that career path actually look like? Well, you might start out as a production engineer. A few years down the line, you could be a plant manager. From there, maybe you become the head of operations for an entire region. Or you could even become a top-tier manufacturing consultant. The path upwards is really clear, and the jumps are pretty big. But, you know, it's not just about the money. There's another kind of payoff here. Something you just don't get sitting behind a screen all day. It's that unique satisfaction you get from making things.
Now, let's keep it real. It's not always a walk in the park. Be honest truth, you might have to work in shifts. You're going to have to deal with the stress when a critical machine breaks down out of nowhere. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of pressure to hit production targets. It's a demanding job, for sure. But here's the flip side. At the end of a tough day, you can literally point to something and say, I helped make that. You see a physical product that exists in the world because of your brain, your skills, your decisions. That feeling of turning a pile of raw materials into something real and useful, that's a kind of satisfaction you can't put a price on. And it's something a lot of engineers really cherish. So, when it all comes down to it, here's the deal. Some engineers code the future, and that's amazing. But manufacturing engineers, they physically build it. This field is for people who want to wrestle with tangible problems, who want to see their ideas become real things you can hold in your hand. So, I guess the only question left is, are you ready to build what's next?